Hello, I'm Mike Killalea with IADC and drillingcontractor.org. Thanks for tuning into this webcast today. Today we're here following the successful 2009 IADC Completions Conference, which brought to the fore a number of issues involving the increasingly complex completions offshore in the Gulf of Mexico for deep wells and for deep water deep wells. What we learned through that conference is, of course, first, no surprise, that completions are becoming increasingly complex throughout the Gulf of Mexico and in other regions as well, such as the shale plays across the United States. We even saw some pundits at the conference say that instead of referring to drilling and completions, or D&C, maybe it's time we start considering C&D, completions and drilling. And maybe one said that IADC should become IADCC, International Association of Drilling and Completions Contractors. I'm not quite sure we're ready to go that far, but let's take a look at some of the statistics. As background, here is a slide produced by ExxonMobil at our annual meeting a couple years ago in Galveston, showing the increased complexity of completions relative to drilling over the last few years.
While drilling difficulty has also increased, it is the completions that's really leapfrogged from being the tail on the dog of the drilling community to actually the dog. Just to give you an idea of how complex some of these completions are in the deepwater Gulf of Mexico, check out just a portion of this fairly lengthy video animation courtesy of Devon and BJ Services, representing a multi-zone single trip system. There are such difficulties. It's a sand control system with zonal isolation intended for deepwater Gulf of Mexico. And Devon plans to deploy this fairly soon. Their delay was that they had not found a rig, but you can see the advanced controls here, and just imagine the complexity of sticking this in the subsea formation at water depths of 9,000–10,000 feet, and well depths beyond that with such very thick sands as we've discussed on this program before, of 4,000 feet perhaps or more. At the Completions Conference, IADC employed this automated response system, which allowed pre-programmed questions to be asked of the audience, and their responses via a voting pad that each registrant had to be displayed just within seconds after voting. So we got a lot of interesting results out of here. First, one of the questions was, how well do drilling and completions teams communicate? Well, the answer there was not really that well, you know. 55% said either you need to make an appointment to see him, or somewhat whimsically, who are those guys anyway? An area of keen need for improvement is communication between the drilling shop and the completion staff, both within an operator and to the drilling contractor staff as well. To add insult to injury to those results, when asked if communication between drilling and completions is an issue, about 90% of the audience, 9 out of 10 folks, said that it ranged from some of the time to most of the time to the more whimsical, what's communication? Only 11%, fewer than 1 in 8 of these folks said that it was rarely a problem. And we had a lot of operators there too. About 35% of the audience there were operator folks. Moving into the perception of complexity in deep Gulf of Mexico well construction, we asked the audience whether they thought drilling, completions, or both were more complex. And we found that, well, and this was a completion group, obviously, because 0% thought drilling was a problem, whereas 43% thought completions was the hardest part, and 56% gave the benefit of the doubt to both. 1% thought that there was no problem with either one. I'm not sure where that guy came from. Okay, so we've decided that completions are more complex than drilling. All right, well, be that as it may, but how reliable are today's completion systems? Well, a little bit of disenchantment with that. 53% said that varies greatly by company, and over a third said that's okay, but we need some improvements. I'm sure that's something the industry can get right on. So where is the most work needed to improve reliability for Gulf of Mexico deepwater well completions? by a landslide, lower completions equipment, sand control gear, all that stuff. Almost 2 out of 3 people indicated lower completions equipment needed a lot of work. Upper completions, 1 out of 4 folks cited that as problem area also, which is not non-trivial. Expandables, a relatively new area over the last decade or so, only 8% were worried about that, and stimulation and other areas seem quite reliable at about 2% perceived problem areas. Now let's look at the rig side. When asked if today's offshore rigs are fully capable of running today's completion systems in the deep Gulf of Mexico, both in deep water and on the shelf, over half said that the new rigs are good, the older rigs are not, and almost a quarter said that this is a limiting factor in the ability to construct wells. Another problem area seen by the audience is that a lot of the drilling crews lack completions experience. No one said that rigs are 100% fit for purpose. We then asked what the preference was for type of rig in the deepwater Gulf of Mexico. Drillship, semi, no preference, or not sure. Again, almost 2 out of 3, 61%, cited the semi. A little bit surprising since we think of the dual activity drill ships, which rated 26%, a little better than 1 in 4, as the premier vessel class for these deepwater rigs and complex completions, particularly with the dual activity that so many of the new rigs have. So what is the most important feature from a completion standpoint for a drilling rig to have to facilitate? Well, the biggest single item was deck space. 53% of folks indicated that. Offline capability was 18%, and 16% said personnel on board. We heard from drilling contractors at the conference, such as Mo Plaisance of Diamond Offshore, who indicated that the personnel on board issue is really a major factor for the drilling contractors, because a lot of the rigs, despite growth in the number of beds on board, still are not able to facilitate the people that operators say are required for these completion activities. Something to think about.
So that's a quick look at completions. Thanks again for tuning into this webcast. Indeed, it seems to be a world of D&C turning to C&D at drillingcontractor.org, IADC, and Drilling Contractor magazine. We look at all drilling, all completions, all the time. We expect to follow these developments as they continue and look forward to sharing them with you. Thanks again for your time. I'm Mike Killalea. Bye.